Let's go to work. As barbers, we cut hair and fade all day. This podcast goes beyond the barber's chair and is about the rest of our story, positioning ourselves for success, avoiding costly mistakes, and continuing to grow and thrive as barbers for years to come. Join us as we look at the whole world of barbering and go beyond the barber's chair. You hear people say you need to get an LLC. We hear this over and over and over again, but no one seems to tell us what an LLC is. And this was the question that actually really kicked off the need for the podcast here, because the whole point of the podcast is to get information to barbers that we can use to be able to build our businesses, build our bodies, build our futures, and just build our lives as barbers. Now, Rey Scott has been a supporter of the barber community for a long time. I've known him since back when I was in barber school. He'd come around occasionally and had this van just filled with barber supplies. It was a store on wheels, and I always knew him as my supply guy. And Rey breaks down what the LLC actually is and what it is not. So I'm just going to get straight to the interview and let him break it down for us. Well, Rey, I want to thank you for your time. I know you got a lot of things going on over there, so really want to say thank you for the time and respect that. So I'll be going right into the questions here. You and I are talking recently about business entities. As barbers, we hear things from other barbers. Yeah, you got to get yourself an LLC. Yeah, you got to do this. Yeah, you got to do that. But we really, beyond that, a lot of folks who I talk to don't know what that really means. They just know they need to go to an LLC, and you can go to LegalZoom and get it done. Every attorney I've ever talked to, and anyone I've ever talked to that LegalZoom is an option for, they've always said that the danger of that is you don't know what you're doing, and there's a lot of details I could miss. So I guess what I want to do is just kind of start with you here. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you do as far as the company and the kind of services that you provide for barbers.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity for us to talk. We talk offline often times, and it's always a pleasure. Well, when it comes to the business entities, the lawyers they're quite correct when they say you got to be careful. You can always go online and get the LegalZoom or any other database that offer that service, but you'll be shooting in the dark. It's best to get an understanding, especially in this industry. A lot of barbers, stylists, they suggest this to them, but they don't give them the other side of the story. Okay. Establishing a business entity, there's several different ones. Okay. There is corporation, which is a C class or S class. You have LLC, which is a limited liability company. And you have sole proprietorship. You got partnerships. There's several different ones, but as a barber stylist in this industry, the best one and the safest one to get initially is the LLC. This comes with a simpler setup. Okay. If you go into being a corporation, it gets really complicated at that point. And that's really above most of our pay grade as far as stylists and barbers, if that answers your question.
I think it does. What is an entity? If you're to describe an entity to, say, a third grader, how would you explain that to them?
Okay, a business entity is almost like a person. You're creating another body, okay? And that has its own life, has its own ID number. You have a social security number, that business has a tax ID number. So the same thing a human being could do, own property, purchase, get credit cards and loans and everything, that entity could also do. So essentially you're creating another body.
Okay. Let me kind of repeat back to you what I'm understanding from this, and tell me if I got this right, because I may be completely wrong on this.
Right.
It sounds to me like, so here I am, Dave Green. If I'm going to set up, it'd be like I'm setting up another Dave Green.
Right. You'll be setting up another Dave Green to do different things.
Okay.
That the flesh Dave Green cannot do. Okay.
So if I change that, if I change it from creating another Dave Green and I say Dave's Barbers, and
Right.
just, I'm creating a company. It's called Dave's Barbers.
Hmm.
So Dave's Barbers could go and buy a building or open a business or get credit cards. It would function as its own thing. So, like maybe Dave Green isn't doing something, but Dave's Barbers, the shop, is doing this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, like if I were to get, like, say, I want to put a TV with internet, get the Netflix or whatever playing in the shop, and it's my shop. Dave Green wouldn't do that. Dave's Barbers, the shop, that would be the one that goes into the contract. So they're not contracting with me, they're contracting with the corporation.
Yes, essentially.
Okay.
Essentially. Okay. The gift of LLC, which is a limited liability company, it actually reduces the amount of liability you would have as an individual, as opposed to you being a sole proprietor in your business where your name is on everything. Your social security number is attached to your business. You are totally exposed to any kind of legal action, and your personal belongings are actually attached to that.
Is that an LLC or a sole proprietorship?
When you're doing it as a sole proprietorship,
Okay.
you are totally exposed as an individual. There's no separation between you and your business. But if you set up as an LLC or a corporation, there's a separation between you and that company. And the key words in this is limited liability company. Okay. Whereas your liability as a personal individual is limited. Okay. And your business is limited. They could only get how much you have in this business. That's it. They can't come and say, I'm going to take your home too.
Okay.
If someone is about to sue you or anything of that nature, there's a
Okay.
limit you can get. But if you're a sole proprietorship, they get everything.
So if I understand this,
Uh-huh.
and I want to make sure I'm getting this absolutely right.
Good.
As a sole proprietorship, it's me. Everything is me. If I cut someone really good with a razor, that's me.
That's
They can
you.
come, they can sue me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If it is Dave's Barbers, the shop, all right. If it's
Mm-hmm.
the shop
Right.
and I cut someone with a razor in that shop,
Mm-hmm.
then they're not coming after Dave Green. They're going after the shop. Do I
Yes.
understand it properly?
Yes. And that goes hand in hand with the shop having E&O insurance, errors and omissions, or any kind of liability insurance for those actions.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so they go hand in hand. So the business is a separate entity, and that business also has insurance separate from you.
So the business would have its own insurance.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. All right. Now, if the trying to think of how to ask this question here because it could be such a complicated subject here, and I want to make sure I don't overcomplicate it.
Right.
So, the concept of the entity
Mm-hmm.
is a way to be able to do business and
Mm-hmm.
run a business
Mm-hmm.
without the personal risk of running the business.
Yes. Not all the personal risk now. We're not
Mhm.
saying, you don't have any responsibility as an individual because it's a limited liability company. Now,
Mhm.
as a corporation, now the level of protection increases.
So, we're talking about these entities. Can you kind of walk us through this here? Say, like the sole proprietorship. What are the pros and cons of that kind of entity?
The pros of a sole proprietorship is that it's minimal setup. Okay, you could walk out your door today and be a sole proprietor. All you need is a business license.
Mhm.
That's it. Your name is on the door. Everything comes to you. Revenue, liabilities, everything. Expenses, everything is under you, the individual. Okay, you don't need no special license to do that. All it pertains in the county that you're in, you need a business license to conduct your business, yes. But there's no special filings or anything like that. It's just you. Okay. That's the only benefit, but that's not really a benefit. It actually is a disadvantage also because it goes into you having total liability for that business now. Okay. So you having total responsibility is beneficial because you don't have, it's an easy setup. But that same thing can be a curse too.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really say it's an advantage. The disadvantage for now for having a sole proprietorship, it goes deep. So now you're responsible for everything. Okay, you can't operate as a separate entity now. Everything runs through the individual, the liabilities, the expenses, the revenues, and everything is linked to your personal property. So if something happens in your business and you're a sole proprietor, your personal property, as Dave Green, is also linked to that automatically. So if you have to get any kind of legal action against you, that plaintiff has the right to go after everything that is attached to you because there's no separation. So that's the greatest disadvantage. Okay. And also, yes, you'll be able to open credit cards and all of this kind of things. But as an individual now, you don't have a business tax ID number. So now you can't go and open business accounts. You can't get real trade lines, okay, to grow your business. Now you're going to have to come out of pocket for everything because you really don't have a business that you could present to a financial institution. They're going to say, do you have a business license? What's your tax ID number? What's your this? What's your that? What's your that? Oh, I don't have it. I just do business. Well, we can't lend you any money. Not under that business. Now you're going to have to be the total guarantor of that business. Okay, which is not the good thing and a good position for anybody to be in. So that's the worst position for someone to set up a business as a sole proprietor. Worst position. You're not protected. There's no protection granted to you as that.
So if I were to say, for example, well, let's say I just injured somebody,
Mm-hmm.
they could literally come after me, and if I don't have the money to pay for their bills, then I could be forced to sell my house or something like that.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yikes. Okay. Okay. Now that's just as an individual barber. Now I'm guessing. Let me just kind of be a little more specific with that. Say I'm a barber and I'm working at a barbershop, somebody else's barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't have to worry about the business side of that. Like if I was working, say Great Clips or Frank's barbershop or wherever, I'm there. It's just me, and I injure someone there at their shop.
Mm-hmm.
Then they would probably turn around and sue the shop as opposed to suing me.
Right. That's if. That's if after they actually file paperwork, they realize that that shop is actually set up correctly. You
Mm-hmm.
see, a lot of times people don't understand a Great Clips is a corporation. So they already got all the lines of protection there. They know about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not in the same context as Bob's Barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to have the same things in line as a Great Clips, the insurance, the business set up correctly. It's in compliance. The barbers there are employees. They
Mm-hmm.
can't be independent contractors, and they cover them.
So if I want to be a booth runner somewhere, then I pretty much need to have some
Yeah,
kind
of
of corporate,
course.
some kind of entity protection. Because if
Yes,
I don't, the shop itself doesn't have it.
and you're exposed now.
Gotcha. Okay, so sole proprietorship, bad. Uh,
Yes.
let's talk about the LLC.
Mhm.
Pros, cons.
Okay. The pros for that is easy setup. There's a filing to the state. It takes probably, I would say, a week to 3 weeks for you to get a response back. Okay. Once you set up, you get your articles of organization from the state or whichever database you might have used. And you could go and open your bank accounts, all the bank accounts for your business and things of that nature. That one articles of organization allow you to set your business up to be protected in the future. Okay. So the advantage of that, like we said before, is that you have a limited liability for any kind of action, legal action. Okay. That it's harder for anyone to come and take your personal property because of something that happened in your business. Okay. That's the whole point of setting these things up, is protecting yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to be an LLC or a corporation if you are not concerned with litigation, because we live in a litigation society.
Yeah.
That's why all of these things are in place to protect the business owner. Prior to that, they didn't have that protection. It's either you were sole proprietor or a corporation. The LLC is something that was actually came after to encourage entrepreneurship and things of that nature at a low level.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, though really everybody was mom and pop, but just ran their business as is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is a recent thing, not yesterday, but few decades that they set up this LLC opportunity for entrepreneurial benefits. So it allowed a lot of people now to say, I can open a business and have the same privileges as a corporation to a certain extent. Okay, so that allowed the markets in all different industries now to have so much entrepreneurs have the ability to say, I'm gonna open a real estate office, I'm gonna open an auto mechanic shop, and it's not gonna be Bob's mechanic shop, it's gonna be, Midas Touch. The owner's name is not even attached to it. His name is nowhere near it, okay? And it stands by itself.
Is that something you want to do if you open an LLC? Make sure it's something that's not anything connected to your name?
Yes, yes, it would be best. It would be best. I know a lot of people open businesses say have their last name and stuff like that, which is not horrible. It's not like, that's a taboo kind of thing. But if you want your business to really grow and you expect some astronomical growth, you would want it to be something that doesn't have your name on it, something generic. IBM, you don't know the owners of IBM, do you?
No.
You don't. Their name is not on the invoice. Microsoft, the owner's name is not on the invoice. But once you reach corporate level and things like that, that's where your name need not be on there.
Gotcha.
You see?
So it'd be wise to go ahead and just do that as an LLC anyway. Just go ahead and plan for success.
Yes.
Okay. And so if I were to use that same scenario, I'm cutting in Bob's barbershop and I cut someone the razor and they decide to sue. Well, they would be suing the barbershop, and even if the barbershop doesn't have any kind of protection or anything like that, with me as an LLC,
they'll come after your company.
They'll come after my company. So yes. if they were to come to me directly, then they would be redirected to the company.
Yes.
Okay. And so then they would go after the company, and then they can go after whatever the company's got, and you
right.
have scissors and razors.
That's the first line of defense. That's the first line of defense, whatever the company has.
Okay. All right. So you're basically setting up a wall to protect yourself with that.
Yes.
What else does an LLC do?
When you say what else do they do, what do you mean?
So you said able to open up bank accounts and things like that. You mentioned something
about could purchase property,
mm-hmm.
go into contract, okay, with any other business entity or another individual.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, set up accounts. It totally exists as though it's a separate human being. The only combination to that is that, and this is a little segue. As an LLC, you file your taxes with your personal. It's one tax.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the only difference.
You're operating together in that sense.
Yes.
But other than that, it's totally separate. You said enter into contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had someone say, I'm not going to enter into a contract with LLC. I'm just going to do it with a person? Have you ever seen people try doing that? Like
you can't. That's illegal, really.
Is it?
Yeah, because what you're saying is that the LLC, all right, and I use the word illegal very loosely, but you're telling the individual that, no, I want to go into contract with you, not your business. That's not a good position of anybody to take.
Mm-hmm.
If someone says, if you have a business and they say, I don't want to go into contract with your business, I want to have your name on this contract as far as instead of your business, you'd be like, why? Because that leaves me exposed. The
mm-hmm.
reason I have a company is for protection. That means you trying to make me stay outside in the cold. Okay, that's a vulnerable position for me to put myself in. Okay, just like if you sign on a lease and you have a business, why would you sign the lease as Bob when you have a company?
Right.
Put your company name on it. Bob is going to sign as an authorized signer, but the contract is between the company and the LLC, not you personally.
As a side sheet from that, because we mentioned leases, a lot of these leases like to have personal guarantees. Does an LLC protect with that?
When you say, well, I haven't seen at least that's personally guaranteed on it. I haven't seen that. They have a contact. You're the contact. You're the one that's actually facilitating the lease, but the
Mm-hmm.
lease is actually between the company and that company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have authorized signers and authorized members to transact business on behalf of the LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but initially it's the LLC or the corporation. Okay, could you imagine you have a corporation, right? And then they say, no, we want you as the CFO to personally guarantee this transaction. How does that sound?
I actually had that situation a while back. Someone,
Mm,
there's an office space which I was looking at, and they said, no, 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 I want a personal guarantee. I'm not dealing with a corporation. Now, obviously, I wanted not moving forward with that.
exactly.
Because it's like, well, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah,
Why would I do that?
right, exactly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, so it's not as rampant as it may have been and all that. Okay,
No, no.
all right.
That limits that individual. That it limits that building to get anybody to lease the space. If
Mm-hmm.
you put that as a stipulation, how many people are going to sign up for that?
You'd be surprised. People who don't know,
Well,
people who are doing
well,
business.
I hope not. I hope
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Actually, there's a commercial realtor who I've been speaking with, and they should be on the podcast somewhere in the next few weeks. We work
Mhm,
about that, getting them scheduled in
mhm.
there. That's gonna be really fun because I know people are gonna be wanting to be able to buy or lease barbershops, and she's got some serious insight on here in the Atlanta area.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to hear that.
yeah, looking forward to that one coming up. All right, so we've seen the good side. What's the downside to LLC?
it's actually limited liability.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still exposed to a certain extent. Okay. You're not as covered as a corporation. Okay. That's the only downside, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the second halfway downside is that the taxes are filed together.
Okay.
Okay. But there's large companies that are still LLC, $1 million companies that are still LLC, and LLPs, which is a limited liability partnership. It's a whole different, conversation that we could have on that. But yeah, they have the same kind of situation. And those companies are not limited in their growth potential.
Mm-hmm.
you know, multi-million dollar companies are still LLCs also.
Okay. So, if you're talking to barbers and stylists, who do you say the LLC is best suited for?
All small businesses. Let's say, I would say as far as under 500,000
Mm-hmm.
grossing, you know, it would still be advantageous. Now, I'm saying this not knowing everyone's position,
Mm-hmm. So,
you know.
generally speaking.
Right. This is a general statement,
Mm-hmm.
you don't go into corporate unless you really have plans or you have to. Because with that comes responsibility now
Mm-hmm.
at a different level. The level of responsibility increases as you become a corporation. Okay. And for us to go into those level of responsibilities, just one or two, is that now you are definitely under the microscope of the IRS because they have rulership over you now. You have to conduct that corporation according to their guidelines. And they have the authority to come and ask you questions and things of that nature at any time during the year to see if you're in compliance with their guidelines.
So, if you're a corporation, and we'll go into that, but if you're a corporation, the IRS, they take a special interest in what you got going on.
Yes, yes, making sure that you're in compliance with their regulation.
Okay.
Okay. As an LLC, they're not so heavy on you. I'm not saying that it's a free for all, okay, but they're not so pinpoint on your establishment as an LLC
Mm-hmm.
because there's considerably more LLCs than corporations out here because of the ease of creation. You go into corporate status, now there's regulations on the books, tax wise, business-wise that you have to be in compliance with all the time. Otherwise, you risk being fined.
Wow. Okay. All right. And as far as the money, as far as LLCs go, so you have the business,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Bob's LLC,
Mm-hmm.
and your customers are paying the business. They're not cash apping you; they're paying the business.
Right.
And then the business would actually cut you a check.
Well,
Is
that's if you set it up like that.
LLC okay? How
Okay.
does that work?
Well, there's several different ways in where a LLC or the business can pay its organizer or its member, because the LLCs have members. You can
Okay.
have a single member LLC or multi-member LLC. So if you are looking to be salary based via your LLC or being paid by them, now you have to present the right documentation for you could do that. There's several ways. So one way is you could do a one-time draw. They call it a draw that the company pays you, let's say, $2,000 every month,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you don't have to be an employee for that. Okay. That's just a draw that the company does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're not responsible for taxes and anything attached to that. They're just giving you a straight check. You have to do all your taxes and things for that. Okay.
Gotcha.
There's another way where you could take a loan from the company. Okay. That you pay back. That's another way. So, or you could set up as an employee and you get paid as an employee, whether it's weekly, bi-monthly, things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you set up as a draw, and so you take a draw, you're responsible for your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all the things you normally see on payroll taxes, like your FICA, your Social Securities, all those
Oh,
things?
that's what you would be responsible for.
Okay, so you would actually cover that on your own as the person.
Yes.
Those tax. So let's say they gave the draw of $2,000. Mm-hmm. From that 2,000, you would take X number to pay the federal income, X for the state, X for Social Security, Medicaid, and all those. You would take those out and make those payments on your own.
Yeah, in theory, what happens is that, let's say there's a $2,000 draw. Most people just take the cash, do whatever they want with it, right? And wait till the end of the year to tally that up and pay the taxes accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. Some might look to do it on a monthly or as the draw happens to set aside in different accounts a percentage of that so that they don't have to worry about it when the tax time comes. Okay. So that's one of the two ways that it could be done. Okay. Or set up a quarterly taxation situation where you pay the IRS every quarter based on what you think you're going to owe them.
Sounds like a lot of math.
Yes.
A lot of organization, a lot of math doing it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's that way. If they do it if they do it like an employee, then how's that work?
The company would set them up as an employee via the Department of Labor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would either set up your own payroll or have a payroll company pay the employee, just like anybody else.
Okay. It seems like you want to have a payroll company doing that because those things can get pretty complex. Or is it simple enough where average Joe could go and do that and have no issues with it, or is it something where you want to have?
You could learn. You could learn. Depends on how many employees. If you only got 2 employees, you could learn the process and submit it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But once you start dealing with double-digit employees and things, it's going to get complicated and it's going to get cumbersome. Okay. But also, if you set up a payroll company now, that's another expense on your books that you got to pay for now.
Mm-hmm.
You in addition to your payroll taxes, you're going to also have to pay the company that processes your payroll. And depending on which company you use, it's going to cost you.
Okay.
So that's basically another expense that's going to be on your books.
Gotcha. So I'm guessing it's not really that many math problems. I mean, if I think about paycheck stuff, you see like 4 or 5 deductions taken away from there. You would think that you'd be able to just kind of do the math and then put this in an account.
Yeah,
I understand that right? Or
everybody is not that that savvy,
right?
And in business, you can't do everything. You might start out doing everything, but as you grow, it gets more and more difficult for you to be the chief bottle washer, and the cook at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the payroll guys come in
Yes.
when it becomes too much.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Yes.
What else would we want barbers to know about an LLC, good or bad?
They have to have
By the
one.
way, thank you for bringing this thing down because most of us have never heard anything like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
and this is really surface. We could spend, days for me to really break it down because we have workshops that we do at the natural hair shows and things of that nature, but those are crammed an
mm-hmm.
hour and a half, trying to answer questions and things like that nature. But yeah, it for a layman, for lack of a better word, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to navigate all of that in addition to handle your business.
So I guess it depends on the value of the person's time
Yes.
and the skill set. I mean, I'm not the greatest person at math, and quite honestly, I'm not the greatest person in saying, "Hey, I'm going to set this money aside." I'm not the best at it.
Exactly.
So for me, the payroll company might actually be worth it if I'm just doing it for myself.
Right.
Whereas if you have a lady who I know over in Norcross who is an absolute genius with money,
Mm-hmm.
she's so disciplined, that might be the way for her to go. Just go ahead and do it all on her own and make it work.
Right.
So there's no one way there. It just kind of depends case by case.
Mm-hmm.
So for small businesses, we're talking about either sole proprietorship, which is bad, LLC, which is pretty good. It could be complicated real quick, or it might cost a little bit, but it's a good step. At what point does someone want to look at? And if I'm understanding what you said earlier on, the corporations are really complex.
Yes.
At what point would a barber want to look at that kind of stuff?
Okay. It's a case by case basis. Basically, what's your plans? What's your plans? If you have plans of grandeur, you open in a school, you have several shops and things of that nature, and you really want to run your business as a business, then setting up a corporation, LLC or not LLC, but S Corp or C Corp, you would investigate doing that. But you will not be able to do that on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to get someone, a tax professional, to help you set that up and put everything in place. Business consultant to help you set that up and put everything in place, because it's not one way. It's not like you set it up and you set it and leave it and you go about your business. It's constant keeping in compliance with the regulations it's already in place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For example, you have to have meetings for your company every month, or as the IRS requires it. And you have to have the minutes of what you discussed every time in the meeting. You might have stock that comes with that corporation. Every corporation have it, but not every corporation utilize their stock options. So you might be sitting on 100 shares of stock, okay, as a corporation. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with that? Are you planning to sell stock in your corporation or no? Things like that. So there's a lot of compliance and regulation that goes into that. So it's no longer you setting it up and you filing your taxes and you're going about your business. No, because now when you file your taxes, you got to file two. You got to file a corporation tax by itself. And then if you're being paid by the corporation, now you have your personal taxes, which is totally separate. Okay.
So if I go back to the sole proprietorship bad, LLC pretty good, corporation is complex, and only if you got something really big on the horizon.
For the most part, that's in my opinion.
Oversimplifying, yeah.
Yes, you know what I'm saying. In my opinion, I know other people might say, "Yeah, they told me I should do that." A lot of times when people get advice, the advice is actually above their pay grade. They would say, someone say, a friend of mine told me I could pay my children and da da da. I'm like, you barely know how to balance your books. Why would you even go and try to, get something like that? I would pay my child and make my life more complicated, So that's where I'll give the example of the corporation. When you start going that way, it gets complicated and you cannot keep up with it. You might have barely, graduated high school. You might have barely graduated college. You got to learn a whole new discipline to be in compliance when you have a corporation.
what kind of risks happen for a small person who's a corporation? If someone decides to become a corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say maybe they probably shouldn't have, but let's say they went ahead and did it with
Mm-hmm.
best intentions, but things were not working out.
Right.
What kind of dangers could they face with that?
Well, it's a compliance issue. You might not be in compliance with all the regulations. Now, if the governing bodies require an answer from you and you don't have the answer, now they have the right to fine you. Now you're going to be in paperwork answering questions and things of that nature because you're not in compliance with the regulation. So it becomes really cumbersome after that point. So that's
Ah,
like the all and be all when there's too much going on for you that you cannot keep up. So now you got to hire someone to do that for you, which is another expense. Me, for example, when I prepare corporate taxes, corporate taxes start out at least $700-800. That's it. That's the way it starts out at, as opposed to a LLC, and your taxes may start out at $300, $400, depending on the complex
mhm.
nature of your taxes. Now, in addition to that, if you have someone else managing your corporation as far as keeping it in compliance with all the regulation, they're going to ask for their fees also. Now, by the end of the year, you might, just because you have a corporation, you just added another $5,000 worth of expenses. You got to decide if that's worth you doing business. Okay. If you're going to go from LLC to corporation, is it worth that $5,000 expense that you're going to have to hire people to do things for you?
And I guess that kind of just depends on how the business is going, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So there's no one pure answer. It's very situational.
Yes. Because everything is governed by the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
LLC, that's why they set it up. LLC corporations and sole proprietorships. It's based on the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
So the tax code changes every year. Now you have to keep up with that, or someone has to keep up with that pertaining to your particular situation.
Right. Like we don't already have enough things to keep track of.
Exactly. Like you want to add that to your plate too? I don't think that's a good idea. You know.
Right. So let's talk about someone just getting started, or maybe they've been barbering for a while, and they say, "All right, it's time for me to go ahead and do this LLC thing. I've been beating ahead enough. I get it. I want to do it." Or what? I mean, obviously, this isn't meant to sell anyone. It's meant to be informational for someone. But let's say someone wants to get an LLC started.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're helping them get started, or if they're in Colorado or wherever they
Right.
are, they want to get one started. What do they need to be prepared to do?
Uh, Depending on what state they are, there's different fees attached to it that you have to pay that state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Secretary of State is usually the database that is used to set up LLCs and business entities. So they have every state got a cost to it. In Georgia, I think is $100 that you got to pay to the state just to file,
Mm-hmm.
and then whoever you get to file it for you and set it up for you, they have their own fee too. Okay, so that's one of the major things. Depending on where you are and what region you are, there's different regulations of how you set it up and what requirements is necessary. So you got to know what's specific to your area.
So someone in whoever state, they need to contact someone in their state.
Yes,
Someone in Texas would need to contact somebody in Texas.
it would be best though. I personally have set up LLCs in New York, Georgia, Texas, different places. But for all intents and purposes, I would suggest the individual get somebody in their state.
Get someone local, someone who they can look in their eye and say hello to.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
and they
gotcha.
would know all the different variations and conditions readily. As for me, if you ask me to do something in a different state, now I got to go do research to be up to speed on what's the current regulations for that state.
And that's more time that's involved in your end.
Right.
Is there anything that I should have asked about or mentioned or anything on your mind that we haven't talked about as far as entities or anything like that?
Now, when it comes to the entities, I think we covered a lot. We could always spend another 2 days,
Oh yeah.
bloodshot eyes talking about it. But at the end of the day, as respect to this industry, every barber especially licensed barber and stylist, esthetician, masseuse. Everyone in this industry needs to have their business set up one way or the other, preferably the LLC, as
Mm-hmm.
soon as possible, because it helps you save money when it comes to your taxes also.
Mm-hmm.
And it legitimizes your business. You can't show up with a pocket full of money saying that you want to go and get a loan at a financial institution. They're going to say, nah, we're not going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you want a business loan, but you don't have a business.
Right.
How's that
Okay.
work?
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now you say do workshops and things like that. You got anything on the horizon you want to talk about?
Yes, actually, we have not set the dates yet, but in the end of this month and in September, we will be posting the upcoming schedule for the business classes, more so taxation, how to understand your taxes,
Mm-hmm.
business entity setup, things of that nature, and personal questions. Like most times in our workshops, we like individuals to ask personal questions pertaining to them,
Mm-hmm.
because you're in a workshop and everything is situational. You got 30 individuals and one person have a personal question, but the other person might have a general. But we need you to ask personal questions so that you leave the workshop with something that is
Mm-hmm.
going to be pertinent to your situation.
You've been supporting barbers for years. And that's one thing. I mean, that's how I met you. I met you back when you were just doing the van thing and
Right.
just hubbing through the whole city. And
Yeah.
do you do most of these at your store over in Duluth now, or do you
Yes.
use
We
multiple locations?
yes, we used to have the classes inside the store at 3580 Breckenridge Boulevard in Duluth, Georgia. It's called
Mm-hmm.
My Supply Guy Barber and Beauty Supply. We usually have the classes in there, but as the classes grow, we seek out other venues, and we also collaborate with other entities to do workshops in different locations too. We have this thing called the Barber Commissioners. We have it once a year with No Grease. I don't know if you're familiar with No Grease.
Is that the one
Uh,
that's in was it Discover Hills? Discover Hills?
yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
So we usually have every November.
Uh-huh.
It's called the Barber Commissioners. We're going to be actually having another one this year too. I think it's the second week in November. We'll start posting that soon too. And
Mm-hmm.
we have it at Dave and Buster's Conference Center inside the mall.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always an awesome event, great turnout, great information. We have great people on the panel asking pertinent questions, giving out great information to the industry. And it's always catered and things of that nature. So look out for that.
What type of information is being what type of information can people expect to get at the Barber
Oh,
Commissioners?
well, the first year we had No Grease as speakers. We had also Clipper Kings, the owners of Clipper Kings. We have a lot of owners on the panel that's
Mm-hmm.
actually in the industry. We had John from Fadeology.
Mm-hmm.
He has two shops in the Gwinnett area, and most of the information is based on the business side of barbering. There's no cutting, there's no color class. It's all about the business side of barbering. Whether you want to do a franchise, whether you want to be booth rental as opposed to percentage, all of that information is out there, and we have people and individuals that are actually doing that for you to ask the question of
Mm-hmm.
whether you're not you could do it or not,
Huh.
and what's the benefits of that. It's not
Right.
over the top. Is hands on, and you actually get to speak to the people that's moving and shaking in the industry.
Nice. 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 Definitely keep me posted on that. I want to get help promote that if I can at all, because
Yes, sir.
that sounds like a really fantastic event there. I want to acknowledge how long you've been supporting barbers. I mean, I remember the first time I met you when I was over at Gwinnett Barber Institute, just
Right.
learning how to cut in the very beginning.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and looking inside that van you had there, like as a kid in a candy shop, it's like, oh my gosh, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Mom, I need.
Yeah, yeah.
My gosh, man, and
It was kind of overwhelming.
yeah, it just to see what you've been doing, the workshops and everything you've been doing has been pretty solid. Just trying to support barbers and help barbers along the way. whether they're students, whether they're professionals. You've always been good with the guys I've sent over that way. It's been really fantastic. I just want to acknowledge that. And I also want to thank you for your time with being with us here. And I'm really looking forward to getting this podcast out there and getting into the ears of some of the listeners out there. So appreciate
sir. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. And, always, like I said, a lot of respect for you and what you do and how far you've came, because like you said, we met prior to you even, having your paperwork in order, Now you're all over the place.
Yeah, there's some stories there. There's no question about that.
Yes. Everybody got a story. Trust me.
Absolutely. All
right. What it is.
Well, thank you for your time, Ray. I do appreciate that. So.
Yes, sir. And look to see you again.
That's it for today's episode of Beyond the Barber's Chair. I put links for my guests and for anything we discussed in the description. I hope you got something great and that it helps you as a barber and in life. If you like the podcast, I hope that you will tell a friend about it and subscribe so that you don't miss any upcoming shows. I'll see you next time as we go beyond the barber's chair.